people have this idea that Trump was president and everything was great. Trump was president. Things improved economically somewhat, I would say. And then the pandemic happened. And by the time Trump left office, this country was in shambles, and it's only gotten worse since then, in my opinion.
You think he'll run again?
I don't know. What do y'all think? I want to see this Curse of Tecumseh, if Biden's going to die in office or not.
That's EBT's turf. Oh, man, we got him on the show. Real quick, let's say someone here never heard of Curse of Tecumseh. Can you give him like the 30-second version of it?
Okay, well, Tecumseh was allegedly the leader of an Indian confederation that tried to solidify all the tribes into fighting against the expansion of the United States into like the Midwest, what was called the Northwest Territory. So like Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, the whole Midwest. So Tecumseh and his brother started a confederation. They set up a city in Indiana called Prophetstown because his brother was known as the Prophet. And it was involved with right around the War of 1812. So this is like 1811, 1812. There was a bunch of prophecies that came true. Like they said that Tecumseh stomped his foot, and that's when the earthquakes of 1811 and 1812 came out. His brother predicted an eclipse, which is a big deal because that's how the curse kind of starts, because the man that would become president, who was in charge of the army that was expanding into the Northwest Territory, he was the governor of Indiana, William Henry Harrison. So William Henry Harrison wrote a letter to Tecumseh's brother and basically was calling him out as a false prophet or whatever, and said that, stop the sun or some shit. And then anyway, so he predicts an eclipse, and then this starts kind of a battle. They go to Tippecanoe when Tecumseh's gone. Blah, blah, blah. There's a whole war that goes on. Eventually, anyways, Tecumseh's brother says that if Tecumseh was to be killed, that it would put a curse onto the presidents or what the great chiefs or whatever of the United States. So Tecumseh ends up getting killed up in Canada, and then William Henry Harrison is elected as president later on, and he's the first president to succumb to the curse, which is also known as the 0-year curse, and it coincides with the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction that occurs every 19 to 20 years. So every president that's elected in a year that ends in a 0 dies in office, starting with William Henry Harrison, and then it continues on. Then Abraham Lincoln's elected in 1860. He gets assassinated. James Garfield is elected in 1880. He dies in office. William McHenry, 1900, he dies in office. Warren G. Harding in 1920, he dies in office. Franklin D. Roosevelt, elected in 1940, he dies in office. And then we get to JFK, elected in 1960, and then he's killed in office, obviously. And then it would go on. The next one would be Reagan, but Reagan happens to be the first president to change the way that they're inaugurated, because Reagan was big into astrology. Like everything that he did was he had a professional astrologer, and Nancy basically set up his whole schedule, and everything he did was based on astrology. But he was the first president to be inaugurated facing the obelisk. So some people claim that this is some kind of reversing of the curse, but we know that Reagan is shot. There is an assassination attempt on Reagan. And then myself and some other people speculate that perhaps maybe he really did die in office and it was covered up. And then we would go, the next one after Reagan would have been George W. Bush. And then we know that George W. Bush was elected in 2000. So he did have assassination attempts on him as well. So, I mean, it's possible that either the curse was somehow ended or perhaps these other presidents did die in office. But I mean, just the run of those presidents alone, just thinking that a lot of people talk about the synchronicities between Abraham Lincoln and JFK. I know QOC talks about that all the time, but like just the fact that both of them are involved in this 20-year curse.
That's a reality breakdown, partner.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty insane. But yeah, that in a nutshell is the curse of Tecumseh. Now it has to do with, astrologically it's the Saturn Jupiter conjunction, but in this cycle the conjunction is leaving to go into another set of signs. So essentially the Saturn Jupiter conjunction is moving into Pisces. So we're moving signs. So all these other conjunctions occurred under a different set of signs. So astrologically speaking, people say that the curse should be over. So whether or not Biden would have an assassination attempt or he would die is up to grabs. But then again, now we do have the Pluto return, which is the combination of the birth chart of the United States. So what is it, 200 some year fulfillment, 248 years, I think it is, but anyways, we're going to see the same alignment that was in the astral chart of the United States from July 4th, 1776 is coming back up next year. So we're possibly we could see things get crazy here in the next, couple months.
That's interesting about the astrology. I was not aware of that. I do have some knowledge of astrology, but that's cool how you broke that down. But I've just had this feeling, like a intuition that it's in that time period that you're talking about. I think a lot of stuff's about to go down. I don't know specifically what, but it just seems like everything's headed that way.
It's hard to even know where the legitimacy of how it became called the Tecumseh's curse, because the entire character of Tecumseh is super involved, and it's hard to know what is legend and what is reality, because he was the enemy of the federal government, but at the same time, he's highly respected. Even the city of Indianapolis was going to be named Tecumseh. So, but you kind of see this in their ideology of whatever they like to build up their enemy to make them more powerful, so that it makes them appear more powerful for destroying them.